Hello, this is Mr. White. We are in Chapter 8, Lesson 2, Human Genetic Disorders. My Planet Diary, Doggy Diagnosis. Maybe you have a dog or know someone who does. Did you know that dogs and humans can have some of the same health problems? It is not uncommon for dogs to have cancer, diabetes, allergies, epilepsy, and eye diseases. Scientists are studying the genes and genetic mutations that cause diseases in dogs in the hopes of better understanding human diseases. Most diseases in dogs are caused by a mutation in one gene. In humans, the mutations can be on multiple genes. The genes that cause diseases in dogs are much easier to find than those in humans. So far, scientists are looking into the genes that cause blindness, cancer, and spinal cord disorders in dogs. German Shepherds can have a form of cancer similar to breast cancer in humans. Dachshunds in humans can both suffer from blindness. Golden Retrievers can have cancer that affects blood vessels. How are genetic disorders inherited in humans? Many of the athletes who compete in the Special Olympics have disabilities that result from genetic disorders. A genetic disorder is an abnormal condition that a person inherits through genes or chromosomes. And some genetic disorders are caused by mutations in the DNA of genes. Other disorders are caused by changes in the overall structure or number of chromosomes. In this lesson, you will learn about some common genetic disorders. Cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis is a genetic disorder in which the body produces abnormally thick mucus in the lungs and intestines. The thick mucus fills the lungs, making it hard for the affected person to breathe. Cystic fibrosis occurs when two mutated alleles are inherited, one from each parent. The mutation causes these bases to be removed from a DNA molecule. Sickle cell disease. Sickle cell disease is caused by a mutation that affects hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a protein in red blood cells that carries oxygen. The red blood cells of people with the disease have a sickle, or crescent shape. Sickle-shaped red blood cells cannot carry as much oxygen as normal cells, and also clog blood vessels. The allele for the sickle cell trait, capital S, is codominant with the normal allele, capital A. A person with one normal allele and one sickle cell allele, capital A, capital S, will produce both normal hemoglobin and abnormal hemoglobin. This person usually does not have symptoms of the disease. He or she has enough normal hemoglobin to carry oxygen to cells. A person with two sickle cells alleles, capital S, will have the disease. Hemophilia. Hemophilia is a genetic disorder in which a person's blood clots very slowly or not at all. People with the disorder do not produce enough of one of the proteins needed for normal blood clotting. The danger of internal bleeding from small bumps and bruises is very high. Hemophilia is caused by a recessive allele on the X chromosome. Because hemophilia is a sex-linked disorder, it occurs more frequently in males than in females. Down syndrome. In Down syndrome, a person's cells have an extra copy of chromosome 21. Instead of a pair of chromosomes, a person with Down syndrome has 3 copies. Down syndrome most often occurs when chromosomes fail to separate properly during meiosis, when sex cells, egg and sperm, form. People with Down syndrome have some degree of intellectual disability. Heart defects are also common, but can be treated. How are genetic disorders traced, diagnosed, and treated? Years ago, only Punnett squares were used to predict whether a child might have a genetic disorder. Today, doctors use tools such as pedigrees, karyotypes, and genetic testing to trace and diagnose genetic disorders. People with genetic disorders are helped through medical care, education, and job training. Pedigrees. Suppose that you are interested in tracing the occurrence of a trait through several generations of a family. What would you do? A pedigree is a chart or family tree that tracks which members of a family have a particular trait. The trait in the pedigree can be an ordinary trait, such as eye color, or a genetic disorder. The pedigree shown below is for albinism, a condition in which a person's skin, hair, and eyes lack normal coloring. Karyotypes. To detect a chromosomal disorder, such as Down syndrome, doctors examine karyotypes. A karyotype is a picture of all the chromosomes in a person's cell. Look at Figure 3. As you can see, the chromosomes in a karyotype are arranged in pairs. A karyotype can reveal whether a person has the correct number of chromosomes in his or her cells. Genetic counseling. A couple that has a family history of genetic disorder may turn to a genetic counselor for advice. Genetic counselors help couples understand their chances of having a child with a particular genetic disorder. Genetic counselors also help couples prepare for having children with a disorder. Karyotypes, pedigree charts, and Punnett squares assist genetic counselors in their work. With advances in technology, new tests have been developed to screen for genetic disorders. Genetic tests examine genes, DNA, enzymes, and proteins to see if an individual has a genetic disorder or carries a gene for a genetic disorder. Whether or not the person develops the disease also depends on many other genetic factors, environmental conditions, and lifestyle. Dealing with genetic disorders. People with genetic disorders face serious challenges, but they can be helped. Medical treatments help people with the symptoms of some disorders. For example, physical therapy helps remove mucus from the lungs of people with cystic fibrosis. People with sickle cell disease take folic acid, a vitamin, to help their bodies manufacture red blood cells. Because of education and job training programs, adults with Down syndrome can find work in banks, restaurants, and other places. Most genetic disorders do not prevent people from living active, productive lives.